Okay, well, welcome back to the summit here. I want to introduce Jon Nastor. Welcome, John, here to the summit.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Mario. This is great.
Yeah, this is awesome. This is the first time I get to talk to you, which is really cool. And, I followed you on your podcast and you online. So I'm going to ask you the hardest question up front. So if I were to meet you at a party and I ask you what you do for a living, what do you say?
Wow, what do I? That is the hardest question because it depends on what party I'm at. Now I would probably say I run a software business, depending on the party, because people get that. But then if I'm at a party where I think people understand what a podcast is, then I'll say I'm a podcaster. And then if it's like a business party, I'll just say I'm a digital entrepreneur.
Well, the way I look at it is, you're kind of like a digital renaissance man because you've got a software company and you've done a lot of work in that area. You've got 2 successful podcasts and one that you do on your own, Hack the Entrepreneur. And you've written a book and I know you do a lot more. So it's kind of really interesting to bring you here to get your perspective.
Yeah, and that's funny because I ask my daughter that sometimes. My daughter's 10, and so I'm like, "What if your friends ask like what your dad does for a living? What do you say?" She's like, "I say he just works on the internet," because she's just like, "You do this and you do this, and then sometimes you do this," and it's like, "Yeah, that's basically what I do. I work on the internet."
Well, that's good. And asking your daughter, that's like the best barometer because she'll tell you the truth.
She will tell me the truth. She does.
Well, that's cool. So the other thing before we get into it, I also want to make note of the fact that you are a proud Canadian.
Yes.
And where are you located?
I'm located in Thunder Bay, Ontario, which is if you were in Minneapolis and you got in a car and drove 6 hours directly north, you'll run straight into my front door.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I thought you were in Vancouver, so you're kind of in the...
We were in Vancouver. We spent 3 months out there this summer. We were out there, and now we're back here for part of the winter, so I can get some work done. I didn't get a lot of work done in Vancouver, and then we'll be moving on somewhere else warmer, probably.
Gotcha.
We're kind of nomadic. We're a small family. There's only 3 of us. So we like to move around a lot. That's hence the digital entrepreneurship.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. And I want you to know, so you feel good, that there's about 30 speakers here at the summit, and I've got about 20% Canadians.
Yes. We're not taking over, but we're making a good dent. I like that.
I figured you get a kick out of that, so that's cool. So like I've been doing with the other speakers, you're just going to share with me 3 tips, like we're having a cup of coffee. You're going to help me with my business as a realtor, and I'll let you go through each tip. I might ask a question here or there. At the end of the 3 tips, I do have a bonus question. I'll kind of catch you a little bit off guard, but very easy. And then after that, we'll wrap up. So I'll let you roll with it. You can go with your first tip.
Very cool. Okay, so my tips come from my background in business. So I'm fully digital now, and I have no thoughts at all or feelings to want to go back offline because I like to be able to move. But I did start out in offline businesses. I grew up, my dad's a contractor, builds houses. I grew up sort of in that market. I started some businesses offline, sold them, and then moved online. And I also worked for a fairly sizable window and door company at one point, selling commercial and residential windows and doors to people. So that's where 2 of these tips actually come from, is from sort of my offline world. And then the first one's going to come from online that I've learned and figured out and how I've sort of scaled my business online, but it absolutely works offline. It might even work even better because it's not done very often. So after that preface, my first tip is to become an expert in your market. So this means to advertising and marketing basically as it worked 10 years ago, 20 years ago especially, and 30 or 40 years ago, meaning just buying an ad in the newspaper, putting an ad up on a bench for the bus, all those sorts of things that cost us lots of money, yellow page ads, they're not places people go really to look for you anymore. And people are so bombarded with advertising in those ways that we just kind of block it out. You'll know that, right? You're driving down the street and people don't see billboards anymore because if they're not driving and texting, they're just in the passenger seat, just looking at their phone, checking Facebook, doing everything. They're not looking at everything else. So the trick is here to become an expert, and you become an expert by producing content, as we say online, meaning producing something valuable. So you define your perfect customer. So whether you want to sell, your perfect customer is a young couple buying their very first home, or whether it is, say, the person who wants to start creating or buying rental businesses or rental properties or commercial real estate, whatever that happens to be, you need to define who that person is or people and then create things for them. So if I'm going to be selling to first-time home buyers, they're my perfect people. Next time I do an open house, I want to have a report written that I'm going to write myself, or if I don't feel confident writing it myself, I'm going to hire somebody to write it. I mean, most books written by anybody these days are not written by the actual person, well, except for authors, but I mean, all the presidential campaigners right now in the States, those people all have books of their own, but they don't write them. So don't worry about that part of it. But create a report. Create the 10 things to watch out for every new home buyer. Something that's going to grab the attention of your perfect customer. So rather than when somebody comes into your open house and just put a business card in their face, people are put in their pocket with 20 other business cards, you have this report that absolutely provides value to your perfect customer, and they go home and they read this and then they're like, dear, I've never even thought of like point 3 that he makes that's excellent. Like when it comes time then to go and actually make that purchase for the house, and they start sorting through all these business cards and then this one report, who do you think they're going to call? They're going to call you because you are now the expert in this field. These things are easy. And if you create one report and lots of people don't take it off the table when you're doing it, then when you're doing the open house, then create a different report. Try something else. But just sort of keep going. And these are things that they don't have to be big. It can literally be 1-page PDF or 2 pages. Just create value for people and then brand it with your face, your name, and obviously your contact information, and you are golden. This then extends out to maybe reach out to local trade magazines or the newspaper in your town. These places are looking for experts to write for them and to provide value to their audiences. If you create this report, you could then send it to your newspaper and be like, well, I could maybe do a monthly column in your paper or something. These sorts of things that you can do that you then become the expert in the minds of the reader instantly. This is how it works. And when you're the expert and they have 100 people, all real estate agents, and there's one expert, who gets called more than the other 100 people? The one expert. And all it takes is a bit of work. And that's why the beauty of this is because it's work, or if you wanted to hire a ghostwriter to write it for you, it might cost you $100 to do a report, but I mean, where can you get a newspaper ad for $100? You can't. And this works so much better because you're selling your services and your expertise without actually selling. You're providing value first. That value first is then going to be reciprocated by the buyer or the seller, and they're going to want to hire you. So become an expert. It's not as hard as it thinks. It's not like don't say you're an expert. You don't need to do any of that. You just become an expert by providing that value first.
And you mentioned earlier, and I think this is really a good point. So, your example with the open house, you can give somebody a book, top 10 tips to look out for when you're a first-time home buyer or relocating to the area. You can have different books set up like that. But you also mentioned online. So I don't know if you're going to talk more about that, but you can also put this information up on your website and then use that as a way for somebody to, like a lead capture. They say, yeah, I'd like to get that report. Here's my email. Can you email it to me? Is that part of what you're saying too?
Of course. And I just didn't want to scare people away. Like I'm obviously this report's going to be written on a computer, so it's just going to be a digital document that you can put it's called repurposing. So you would use it for two things. You would put it on your website or Facebook ads that you can literally target geographically to the city or the part of the city that you want to target. So anybody who lives in that area or who is in that area will see your ad and you know that they're looking at houses, then these are things that you can do. But then you can also print it off and give physical copies to people. And that's the beauty of it, is that you can do both with one bit of work that you've put in. And you're absolutely right. That's a great way to get people's attention, get people's emails, and then you can get back to them, or they can contact you. Make sure your contact information is on it. The only reason I didn't mention it because I didn't want overwhelm and to think that like, oh, then I got to think about how to get this onto my website. And really the end result, because you are working in the offline space, it doesn't have to be done through that. You can do that for generating leads, but I'm talking about generating actual people who are going to see you as the expert. Therefore, they're going to put you above every other real estate agent in your area, just in their mind, without even it being said. It's like, obviously, yeah, well, that Mario guy, he knew. Remember that 0.3 and 0.7? Like, man, that just saved us like $5,000, or saved us 3 months in the process, or saved us this, or stopped me from staying awake at night with that. These are the things that help people want to work with you and hire you, rather than you just being like, here's my ad for $5,000 I just paid for the newspaper. Like, and you can create a lot of reports for the amount it costs to put one newspaper ad in. Once that newspaper gets thrown out, or if anybody even reads newspapers anymore, I don't know. But that's that's the whole other thing, right? So just become an expert by creating valuable things for your ideal customer, and then move it to once you have that, then obviously go to the newspapers, go to the radio stations in your area, and just be like, I'm an expert. I would love to talk about this. I would love to help people with these 3 tips. It takes 10 minutes. People will have you on their shows. I'm on Mario's show talking about this stuff. This is how it works. And it just immediately propels you into the expert realm, and it doesn't cost you really any money. It just costs you time. It makes you better at your job because you're thinking about, well, what are the 10 things that will help my customer? This is all great stuff, right? So there you go. Become an expert in your market.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. I like that. And I like what you talk about with the open house, because we do fall into the trap where we just give our business card, we give the color flyer with the picture of us in the house. But if you're giving something of value, then that's going to position you as the expert. So that's a good tip.
Definitely. I mean, I've never had somebody do that to me when I walk into an open house. It's always a business card, and I always get so mad. I'm like, what's this business card going to do for me? If somebody gave me a report, I would use them every time to buy a house.
Okay.
All right. We're going to move on to point number 2. Ask for referrals. This is something I did when I was running that window and door business. We scaled the business massively by starting to ask for referrals. So you've defined who your perfect customer is. Find more of them. Typically, by finding more of that customer is right around that perfect customer already. So we know as business owners that referrals are a great way to get new business. It's free. Usually those referrals are really good customers again. Yet sometimes we forget to ask for them. If you want something, ask for it, right? So, and the beautiful thing is that this is just a conscious thing that you have to remember, and remember that your business is based on referrals. There's an excellent book, what's his name? Jon Nastor, I believe, wrote it, called The Referral Engine. I can't remember if that's the author, but The Referral Engine. Amazing book. It changed the way I saw business because it creates your whole business around referrals. Literally, so that when your one customer refers that customer to you, or potential customer, you literally set the precedent right at that initial exchange that, yes, I'm so glad that Mario referred you to me, and my whole business is based off referrals. I will tell you what I'm going to do. I will do even more than that. You will be super happy with my service and how everything works for you. You'll be so happy that then, because my business is based on referrals, you will then refer me to other people, coworkers, family, friends, when they need my services too. You sort of set up the relationship basis on referrals at the very beginning. Then you do your job, you get paid for your job by this person, and then over the next 6 months when they meet somebody and they're like, wow, I'm looking for a new house too. Wow, this guy I met and dealt with bought my house. They know that they're set up already to refer you. And this is the thing that it's basically network marketing pyramid style, where you're finally the person at the top of the pyramid and you just get more and more people below you referring them to you. The only way to do this, obviously, is to ask for it at the very, very beginning. Make that part of the deal. My business is based on referrals because I do everything I say I'm going to do and more, and I make sure you have the absolute best experience possible. And then you do that, and then it's just part of the deal. So they have to reciprocate and do and provide their part for you, and your business just grows and grows and grows below you without you having to do anything extra except for making sure you provide excellent service, and then knowing that you will get more customers based on how much you provide to that one customer. So ask for referrals. I don't know why we're afraid to ask, but we really are.
And I want to dig into that a little bit, because you make a good point. Sometimes we are afraid to ask. And what you're talking about is like the first time we're sitting down, and like if I was a realtor and you were the customer, and I'd be like, hey, John, I'm going to help you buy this house in this area. And now you're saying to have that conversation right there when you're meeting with them the first or second time to kind of set the stage. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and not only does it set the stage for after the job is done and they're happy with you and then they have to go on and refer somebody, but it actually helps you sort of close the deal before. Because if you're sitting down across the table from me, if I'm sitting down across the table from 2 or 3 different real estate agents throughout the day to choose which one I'm going to work with, the one that is so confident in their service, I'm so confident that I will do over and above what I say I will do personally for you to make sure you get the absolute best service. So much to the point where you will want to go out and tell your coworkers, your friends, and your family, because you will trust that I will do the same for them. And then the other person who's just like, well, I've sold $3 million worth of stuff. I've done this. It's like, well, I don't really care. Like that doesn't help me that you've done all that stuff. Like that's great for you. Awesome. But it seems like everybody else also told me how much they sold and all this stuff. Then there's this one guy, Mario, who's just telling me that he is so confident in how our relationship will work, how happy I will be with, and how much he will go over and above even what he says he's going to do, that I will be so happy after that I will want to refer him. And I know that this is true because my good friend Bill referred me to Mario. And so I know that Bill's already been through that process. He's done what he said he's going to do, referred me, and now here I am. And it's like, wow, yeah, I want to go with that guy because I know for a fact that he's going to, and I trust my friend Bill that he told me to go with Mario. And now Mario is basing his whole thing on my satisfaction is what's going to cause his business to continue forward.
No, I think that's good. I think that's really good, Johnny, because I think what happens, and I know I've been a realtor 13 years, and I think we take the path of least resistance when we meet people. And what happens is like, I know you're going to work with me, and I just don't sometimes take that extra effort and take that extra time, and maybe I don't want to have a confrontation up front because I'm a little bit afraid, but I know I have done it in the past, but I think I need to do it every time, and that, like you said, sets the stage. And the other thing that the real estate agents is a bad habit we all have is that we do our referral marketing after the fact. And so like I could work with you, take good care of you, and then our email exchange, and this is a classic thing in our industry, you put at the bottom of the email, oh, by the way, I'd be happy to get your referral. It's like a passive marketing versus what you're saying is be direct, be confident in who you are, and set the stage from the very beginning.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not just real estate agents that do that. It's literally almost everybody in every industry. And it's because we don't use it as a selling tool at the beginning, and we don't use it to, it literally makes the whole process better for your customer because you've set this bar, you've gone above this bar, and now at the end you're saying, And remember about that referral? And they're like, yeah, of course, because that was the deal. And he went way above what he said. And that's exactly what I want to do. So it's using it, and it's just really changing your mindset about it. It's not you asking for something. It's you literally providing more value and more confidence to your customer at the beginning, because you are so confident that you're going to do what you're going to do. Not so that you can then say that you sold this much more to the next person. No, it's because they're going to refer you to someone, and you're going to sit down with that next person, their friend or their mother, and you're going to tell their mother the exact same thing. And they're going to be like, wow, and we know that the cycle has continued, and so we're confident going forward. And so they can rest at night. They can know that you are going to do what you say you're going to do. And so it's not a hard sell. It's not that. It's really you actually making their life easier for them. And you have to think about it in that way and approach it in that way.
That's good. That's a really good tip. I like the way you kind of lay that out, because like I said, a lot of what we do is passive and being direct and confident up front. So that's really helpful.
Okay, my last tip. My last tip is all mindset. This is for just sheer business growth. And I call it the 24-hour reset. This is something I discovered about 2 years ago, and it's changed my life. 24-hour reset is literally resetting your mindset every 24 hours. So as a real estate agent, you're basically small business. You run your own show. And as that happens, we have highs, we have lows. And sometimes a huge deal falls through, and we've been told so many times that when that happens and you're all bummed out and maybe I shouldn't be doing this, all this stuff, we're all told that you have to just no, you have to deal with the failures. And that's fine. And so, of course, 24-hour reset causes that. But to me, where the real point of the scalability, or how this propelled me forward, is the wins. So when you close a huge deal today, this massive deal, the biggest deal you've ever done, closes today, and you're super excited, that's amazing. Take it all in. Enjoy every single moment of it, because you deserve it. But when you wake up tomorrow, reset and forget about that deal and try and land a better one, bigger one today. Don't do what most of us do and what I did for years, which is coast on that good deal. And just 3 days later, a week and a half later, you're kind of just you're not really doing much. You're at a coffee shop just doing some things. But you're thinking in the back of your head, yeah, but remember that big deal I did? And so that's awesome. But if you could have that big deal and then the next day also be working on another deal, and the next day be working on another deal, that's where you actually reach the scale. And so the 24-hour reset is just literally, whether it's good or bad, no matter how that works and how you are dealing with it, take it all in. Take in the downs, take in the failures, and really internalize them and learn from them. Of course, don't ignore them. And the wins as well. Take them, win, just go for it. Celebrate with dinner. Take your wife out that night if you want to. But then the next day, start over. Now it's a clean slate. Now I have to sort of prove to myself that I am in the right business, that I am doing the right thing for my customers, and that I can do even better than I did yesterday. Every single day, start it like that, and you will see just the growth that will happen in your business, and you'll have to just constantly be doing this reset, because you're going to just be doing better deals after better deals after better deals, and you won't be just resting on your laurels and thinking that one deal was the one that's going to just sort of carry you through.
So I think that's really helpful. I think maybe can you just share a little bit more, because you make a good point about when we lose a deal. We lose a deal, we lose a client. I mean, it's devastating to us as real estate agents. And part of what is a problem is a lot of our self-esteem, a lot of who we are is defined by our occupation, being a realtor. So if somebody rejects us or we lose a deal, it's hard to let that go. And I know exactly what you're saying, 24 hours, but sometimes it lingers. Do you have some advice on how we can break that sooner rather than let that bad situation linger for a week?
Yeah, and honestly, the only way I've found to do this, and so I guess to backtrack, I mean, failure or losing a deal, most deals don't go through, just in business in general. I've never been a real estate agent, but in any business I've been in, anytime a business is going to like be bought that I own, or anytime I'm going to get a partner onto something, or we're going to do like a joint venture deal with something, 99% of those things that are the most amazing deals fall through. That's a hard thing to accept, but it's just how business works. And it's not just you as a real estate agent, and it's just business in general. And so you do have to take into account the fact that it's not just you. Know that for a fact. It's not. And because I've never been in real estate and I deal with these things every single day of my life. The next point, I guess, would be that like losing a deal is only, or it's like a failure, whatever you want to call it, you failed somehow in your business, is only truly like detrimental to you in your business if you don't learn something from it. Typically you'll know, or you can see where the deal sort of fell apart. And sometimes that deal, I mean, it has nothing to do with you. It's like the person was maybe leading you on and you realize, but maybe you can learn to like figure when that leading on is going that way, and you can kind of stand back from it the next time, then you're golden. But the trick really is just to internalize what happened and sort of stand back from it, look at it, and then figure out, learn something from it. And then take that lesson that you've learned from it and use that as a win now to put on top of this, obviously, loss. Because that's just how it is. And you have to, like, I wish I could tell you a way to not have failures, but there is no way. There's absolutely no way. And I think, I mean, you could go work like a corporate job or something and think it's still, you're going to have them. It's just how it is. Life is just like that, right? Things don't always go the way we want them to. And so it's not just you. And so internalize it and sort of then step back from it and see it and take that lesson. And then I think you'll do much better. But to me, the thing is with the 24-hour reset, why this works so well is because you're right. The whole week cycle of that, losing that deal, and we take it, but this 24-hour reset doesn't work when you just try and do it on failures. So when you just try and do it when the deal falls through, next day I'm going to forget all about this. But when the deal goes through, I'm going to celebrate for 2 weeks. You know what I mean? Because there's the difference. But if you are willing and you can change your mind that when you have this massive deal go through today and you're going to celebrate like you've never celebrated before tonight, but then tomorrow it's a clean slate. Let's do this. Then, and you have another one of those the next day, it's great. And then you reset and then you lose a huge deal. All of a sudden this reset's kind of habitual. And it's like, all right, let's move on because I want to get to the next win. I won't get to the next win quickly if I just dwell on this thing. And so it doesn't work if you only try and reset on the failures. It just doesn't. It only works if you do both, because then your brain's set up for it. But unfortunately, then you don't get to just rest on your laurels for a week when you close the big deal. But not resting on your laurels will propel you forward, because now you'll have 2 huge deals a week rather than 1, or 5 huge deals rather than 3, because you won't be resting on it. You'll be going at it like a new day every single day.
Yeah, I think that's great. And I like the 24-hour because I think when I'm thinking about this, because the first time I'm hearing it too, is it's what we deal with. It's only temporary, good or bad, and celebrate it, get over it, 24-hour, move forward to your next success. So I think that is a really good coping device for us to keep moving forward to attain our goals.
Exactly. I couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, you did, so that's how I picked it up.
Nice. So that's my 3 tips for growing your real estate business.
Okay, cool. Well, that's awesome. So here's the bonus question, and then we'll talk a little bit about where we can find you online. So here it is. It's the middle of January 2016. I want you to look back last year, and I want you to look back at what you accomplished in 2015. A big goal, a big accomplishment, something you're really excited about, that you feel good about. You don't want to rest on your laurels, but I want you to think about, kind of share with us something that you did that you're really excited. It could be personal. It could be business.
Personal is business to me. Business is personal to me. But yeah, and this is where my first point, to become an expert in your market, comes from. I had the goal of, I said when I interviewed 50 brilliant entrepreneurs that I would become, no, when I said when I did 100, I would become an expert in my market to people in my market. And at episode 50, which came out around February of this year, I actually got brought on to Sirius XM with Mark Zuckerberg's sister, actually runs a show on business people, and she brought me on as an expert in entrepreneurship because she listens to my show. And I was like, wow, so I became an expert in my field actually in 50 shows, not in 100. And so it proved to me that this absolutely works. And then right after that, then I got picked up by Copyblogger Media to be on their network, and then I partnered with them later to do a course with them. And so financially, it's been an excellent year because of becoming an expert in my market. And personally, it's been super, super, super rewarding because I get to meet people like you and talk to people like you. I get to do this literally all day now, 5 and 6 days a week at times, all because I became, and I'm working on becoming, an expert in my market. And that's why it was my very, very, very first tip. And that's because I just try and provide value and lessons and encouragement to people before asking for anything from them. And I know that it absolutely works because I just started doing it last September. So it was only 5 months into it that some really huge things happened. And so that's why it's absolutely my first point. And 2015 has been an awesome year. And 2016 is going to be, I think, even better.
Well, congratulations. And, I listened to your podcast, so, I'm a little starstruck because the first time we're talking, and, you bring a lot of value to us as the audience by the guests that you bring on. I like your style, very down to earth. And, you're very inclusive, and you're willing to help people, to be on this summit, I think is really awesome. But, I recommend all of you that are listening, why don't you share, Johnny, where people can find you online, and then we can talk a little bit about that. You're also going to have a speaker page, and I'll have all the information on your speaker page too.
Excellent. Yeah, thank you. hacktheentrepreneur.com is my main website. It's for the podcast. You'll see my pretty face right up there in the corner, and a spot to put your email address in. If you put your email address in there, you'll get a bunch of cool stuff, but you also get direct access to me and my cell phone. So from the first email that comes, you can hit reply to any of them. As Mario said, I try and be inclusive to everyone. My inbox does get terribly swamped these days. Not terribly in a bad way. I love it. I absolutely love it, and I want more. But send me an email. You can hit reply to anything, ask me any questions. I can explain further any of these or provide you links to other places that for people that could teach you even better than I can. And yeah, that's a great spot. It's a podcast, so you can listen to it on iTunes. You can find it. And by the time this comes out, I will have my first book released as well, which is sort of a distilling of the first 200 interviews down into 50 hacks from 50 different entrepreneurs, with my essays and sort of tying it all together from starting a business all the way to getting scalable growth at the end, and then dealing with this whole issue of failure that we deal with every single day as running our own businesses.
Yeah, I'll have the link to your book on the speaker page. And I want to make a comment about your website, Hack the Entrepreneur. So for me, what I do, I have a realtor, but I also have my book and I do my podcast. I'm studying a lot of people online because I want to, be in that space too. So I get on a lot of people's emails, and I get emails from a lot of these thought leaders and everybody out there in the industry. And I want to share with you, the audience, that you need to sign up for John's email that he sends out every week, every Sunday. Sometimes it's early in the morning, sometimes it's late at night. But he gets an email out every Sunday, and it comes from him. It's not some BS email, fluffy marketing kind of stuff. He gives real actionable advice and tips, And out of all the emails, I'm probably on 50 different email lists. Jon's email is the best email that I've ever gotten, and I look forward to it every week. So I want to share that with you because it's helpful. And then like he says, every now and then I might reply back to his email and say, hey, you know, this is really cool, or this is what I'm going through, or, and like when I was coming up with the idea to do this summit, I ran the summit idea by him, and, you know, in today's world, he's kind of a big shot, right? But he still replied back to me, gave me his opinion, and was very helpful. So I want to thank you for that.
Wow. Thank you so much. And you're welcome. But wow, that's awesome to hear. And yeah, the email, I mean, that I write every Sunday, that's why sometimes it comes out super early in the morning. Sometimes it's literally like 11:58 p.m. And because I just literally, it's something, I take notes on my phone, like when something happens, these failures and these things throughout the day, and then I look through it, it's like one of them just like, okay, and then I have to kind of distill it into some sort of lesson that I've learned from it and then write that. But it's not automated. It's nothing. It's literally me here writing it. So
yeah,
I'm glad you enjoyed it so much.
And you could tell. So I appreciate that, which is really cool.
Yeah.
So, well, thanks again for being here. I appreciate you being part of the summit, and look forward to staying in touch.
Absolutely. My pleasure, Mario. Thank you so much.